Hello, my sleepless friend. Welcome back to Ancient Sleep. I am the sleepless historian. The world was too loud again today, wasn't it? The hum of the digital, the chorus of demands, the glare of 1,000 screens promising connection, but delivering only fatigue. The pace of it all was a relentless current, sweeping you along when all your soul wanted was the quiet, tidal rhythm of understanding. But that current cannot reach you here. In this space, the noise recedes to a distant murmur, and then to silence. Here, the clocks have surrendered their authority, and the calendars have crumbled into nameless dust. You have found your way back to the sanctuary of the shadows, a place where the only currency is the passage of time, and the only destination is the deep, forgotten past. Tonight, we are journeying to a place that no longer exists on any map, a country erased not by the fury of fire or the clamor of war, but by the slow, inexorable, and silent rising of the tide. So, find the position that calls to you. Allow your body to settle into its own weight. Let your shoulders release their burden, dropping away from your ears. Unclench the tired muscles of your jaw. Feel the tension drain from your limbs like rainwater flowing downhill, seeking its own level, returning to the quiet embrace of the earth. Imagine a heavy velvet curtain, the color of a midnight sky, being drawn across the window of your worries. It shuts out the modern world. It shuts out the day. It leaves you in a safe, dimly lit space where nothing is asked of you. Now, close your eyes. I want you to come and stand with me on the edge of the world. We find ourselves on a coastline, perhaps the shingle shores of what you call England, or the low, windswept flatlands of the Netherlands, or the jagged, tooth-like edge of Denmark. It does not matter which shore we choose, for they all gaze out upon the same gray, brooding mystery. It is night. The air is cold, sharp with the damp, biting chill that only the north can truly conjure. It kisses your cheeks with the faintest touch of frost and leaves the clean, metallic taste of brine upon your lips. Listen. Can you hear it? That is the North Sea. It is a vast, heaving expanse of slate-gray water, a liquid continent moving under the unseen command of a moon veiled behind thick, woolen clouds. The sound is a liturgy, a deep and resonant percussion that has been playing for millennia without cease. Hush, crash, drag. The waves surge from the darkness, immense and powerful, only to exhaust themselves against the shingle beach. They retreat with a sound like 1,000,000 pebbles being drawn back by an invisible hand, a rattling, sibilant sigh of surrender before the next great wave gathers its strength. Hush, crash, drag. Breathe in time with it. Allow your chest to rise as the water swells. Allow your breath to leave your body as the water recedes into the dark. The darkness out there is absolute. It is not the empty, sterile black of space, but a heavy, liquid black, thick with secrets and sediment and salt. If you strain your eyes toward the horizon, you cannot tell where the water ends and the sky begins. They have merged into a single entity, a void of cold air and colder water. Perhaps, for a moment, you see the distant light of a vessel, a tiny, solitary pinprick of yellow, struggling against the overwhelming night. It bobs on the unseen swells, fragile, transient. It serves as a reminder of how small we are against this immensity, how temporary. To look upon this sea is to feel a profound sense of permanence. It feels eternal, does it not? As if this gray water has always been here, a permanent barrier of salt and storm dividing the islands from the continent. We watch the waves batter the cliffs and assume this is the baseline of history, that the shape of this coastline is a fixed and immutable truth. But the water is a magnificent liar. This sea is young. In the deep geological time of the Earth, this ocean is nothing more than a momentary flood. It is a recent intruder, a liquid veil thrown over a secret. Beneath those heaving waves, beneath the keel of that distant, lonely ship, beneath the cold, crushing weight of all that salt water, there lies a landscape. There are hills down there, silent and dark. There are riverbeds carved into the earth that have not felt the rush of fresh water for 8,000 years. There are sweeping valleys where herds of giant deer once walked, where the smoke of hearth fires rose from family encampments, where children laughed and played in the tall grasses of a summer that lasted for centuries. It has a name. It is called Doggerland. It is the Atlantis of the north. But there are no marble temples slumbering in the depths, no golden statues or mythical technologies. There is something far more profound, far more resonant. There is the ghost of a home. A vast, sprawling plain, the lost heartland of a continent that once connected the white cliffs of Dover to the shores of Jutland. It was a Brit of living earth, teeming with life, vibrating with the thrum of insects and the heavy, earth-shaking footfalls of giants. And now it is asleep, buried under millions of tons of silt and sand and water. I want you to visualize the surface of the sea again. See the white foam cresting on the dark, rolling waves. Now, imagine that your vision has gained a new power. It can penetrate that turbulent surface. We are going to sink. Do not be afraid. We will not drown. We are becoming something else, weightless, ethereal. We are slipping beneath the surface, past the churning chaos of the waves, beyond the reach of the moaning wind. Down. The water closes over us, a silken blanket sealing out the cold air. The sound of the crashing waves transforms into a muffled, distant thrum, like a heartbeat heard through a thick wall. It is quieter here. We are suspended in the deep, silent gloom. The light from the surface world fades, turning from a chaotic white to a bruised twilight blue, and then to a deep, inky indigo. Drifting deeper. Pressure builds around you, not as a threat, but as a comforting heaviness, like a weighted blanket settling upon you, grounding you in this unearthly space. We are descending through the water column. Plankton, the dust of the sea, drift past like tiny stars in a liquid galaxy. A school of herring flashes by, a sudden cascade of silver coins turning in the dark, moving as one mind, one body. They are the current residents of this space, swimming through the ghosts of ancient trees. We go deeper still, until the last vestige of indigo fades completely to black. And finally, we feel it, the bottom. We touch down as softly as a falling leaf upon the seabed. It is silent here, a silence so profound it seems to sing in your ears. The water is perfectly still, utterly unmoved by the storms that rage 100 meters above our heads. Reach out with your mind. What is beneath your feet? It is not merely sand. It is peat. Compressed, black, ancient peat. The compressed memory of a forest floor. If you could dig your hands into this silt, moving aside the brittle stars and the scuttling crab, you might find the preserved root of an oak tree, black as coal but still holding the essential shape of living wood. You might uncover a hazelnut shell, cracked open by human teeth 10,000 years ago, and discarded by a fireside that is now in the middle of the sea. This is the ground we will walk upon tonight. But to see it, to truly experience it, we must first banish the water. We must command the clock to spin backward. We must ask the ocean to retreat, to withdraw its long and heavy claim on this land. Imagine the water lifting. Imagine the heavy curtain of the North Sea rising up, dissolving into mist, pulling back toward the frozen poles from whence it came. The darkness lifts. The crushing pressure releases. And the gray, pearlescent light of a prehistoric dawn begins to filter through. The profound silence of the deep ocean is replaced by a new sound, the sound of wind hissing through vast plains of dry grass. The smell of brine and salt is replaced by the rich, complex scent of damp earth, of pine resin, of decaying leaves, and the distant musk of animals. The year is 18,000 BC, or perhaps 10,000 BC. The numbers are brittle things. They do not matter as much as the feeling. We are in the time before the flood. You are standing on a gentle hill in what was the middle of the North Sea. But there is no sea. To your left, the sun is a pale disk rising over a vast green-gold marshland that stretches all the way to what we would one day call Denmark. To your right, a great river, wider than any you know, winds its way sluggishly toward the distant white gleam of cliffs we would one day call England. The air is crisp and cold and impossibly clean. It fills your lungs with a primitive clarity. This is the world we will explore tonight. A world that sleeps in the memory of the earth. It is a world of breathtaking beauty and brutal survival. A world of ice and fire. A world that was lost so slowly so imperceptibly that the people who lived here never even realized they were saying goodbye. We are here now. The water is gone. The land is waiting. The sleepless historian is with you. I will be your guide through the primordial fog. I will show you the footprints that even the tide could not wash away. We will walk together until the sun sets on this lost horizon. But first, we must understand the foundation. Before the trees, before the animals, before the first people, there was the ice. To understand the tragedy of the drowning, we must first bear witness to the violence of the birthing. We must look at the scars on the land itself. So, let us rest here for a moment in the quiet anticipation of the dawn. The grass is stiff with frost. The sky above is a pale, impossible blue. And the silence is a held breath, waiting to be filled. Are you ready to walk? Before the green, there was the white. Before the first blade of grass could tentatively unfurl its spine to catch the weak sun, before the first lung drew a breath of this thin, cold air, there was only the crushing, absolute, and silent dominance of the ice. To understand the land we are now standing on, this phantom country beneath the waves, we must first understand the force that carved it. We must travel back 18,000 years. We must journey to the deep, frozen heart of the Last Glacial Maximum. The world here is utterly unrecognizable. If you were to stand where the city of London is today, you would not see a river. You would not see hills or trees. You would see a wall of ice. A sheer, translucent cliff rising a mile into the sky, shimmering with a strange and terrible blue internal light. This was the edge of the great Weichselian ice sheet, a monster of frozen water that had swallowed Scandinavia whole, drowned the mountains of Scotland, and was pressing its heavy, indifferent thumb down upon the northern hemisphere. It is a world of terrifying purity. There is no birdsong here. There is no rustle of leaves. But do not mistake this landscape for a silent place. The silence of the Ice Age is a lie. Listen closely to the glacier. It groans. It is a low, mournful, infrasonic sound, a frequency so deep it vibrates in your chest cavity long before it ever registers in your ears. It is the sound of the planet's crust crying out under an unbearable weight. Millions upon millions of tons of ice are in constant, infinitesimal motion, sliding over the bedrock in a slow-motion grinding, a geological chewing. Deep beneath the surface, where the ice meets the stone, the friction is immense. Granite is being pulverized into fine flour. Boulders the size of houses are being dragged for hundreds of miles, like pebbles, scraping deep, parallel scars into the face of the world. Crack. A sound like a rifle shot echoes across the white plain. A fissure, a crevasse opens in the ice, a blue-black canyon appearing in an instant, swallowing the wind itself. The ice is alive. It is shifting, settling, breathing in its own ponderous, frozen rhythm. Stand here for just a moment. Feel the cold. It is not just a temperature, it is a physical weight. It presses against your skin, stinging, numbing, stripping the moisture from your breath and your eyes. The air is thin and brutally dry, devoid of the humidity that life requires. The sky above is a pale, washed-out violet, stripped of the warmth and color of the lower latitudes. This ice sheet is the architect of Doggerland. It is a cruel and careless builder. It scours the land clean, erasing ancient rivers, flattening hills, grinding all that came before into dust. But in its relentless violence, it is also preparing the canvas. For thousands of years, this white stasis holds. The seasons are meaningless, merely a slight darkening of the gray sky, a slight deepening of the profound cold. Time itself seems to have stopped. The great pendulum of the earth hangs frozen at the apex of its arc. And then, almost imperceptibly, the rhythm shifts. It begins not with a roar, but with a whisper. A single drop of water. A subtle wobble in the planet's axis. The sun lingers just a few minutes longer in the sky each day. The solar radiation striking the northern hemisphere intensifies by a mere fraction, but it is enough. Look at the edge of the glacier now. The great wall of ice is weeping. Tiny capillaries of meltwater begin to bleed from the blue face of the cliff. They join together, finding each other in the creases and cracks of the ice, forming veins, then arteries of flowing water. The sound of the landscape begins to change. The deep groan of the grinding rock is now accompanied by the high musical tinkling of water finding its freedom. Drip, trickle, rush. This is the beginning of the great melt. It is a chaotic, violent, world-altering spring that will last for millennia. As the ice sheet retreats, pulling back toward the pole like a great wounded beast, it leaves behind a ruined world. But look at what lies in its wake. This is the floor of Doggerland being revealed for the first time. It is a landscape of raw geology. There is no soil yet, only a thick layer of glacial till, a messy, chaotic sludge of clay, pebbles, boulders and sand left behind by the retreating ice. It looks like the surface of the moon, gray and pockmarked and sterile. Huge boulders, carried all the way from the mountains of Norway, sit alone and bewildered on the flat plains, dark monoliths dropped by a careless giant. These are the erratics, the orphans of geology. And there is water. So much water. The melting ice does not vanish. It is merely transformed. It creates rivers of unimaginable power. Imagine a river 5 times wider than the Rhine, 10 times faster than the Thames. This is the Schotten River, born from the bleeding edge of the ice sheet. It roars across the empty plain, carving a deep, winding valley through the soft sediment. The water is not clear. It is milky white, thick with the rock flour ground from distant mountains. It is cold enough to stop a heart in seconds. Stand on the banks of this prehistoric river. The ground beneath your feet is unstable, a treacherous layer of permafrost that is slowly thawing into a deep mush of mud and ice. The air is filled with the constant roar of the water, a white noise that drowns out all thought. The landscape is in flux. The land itself is rising. Released from the crushing, unimaginable weight of the mile-high ice, the crust of the earth begins to rebound in a slow, geological sigh of relief. The land heaves upwards, for a time outpacing the rising sea levels. The floor of the ancient sea lifts itself up and becomes a plain. And slowly, very slowly, the gray begins to turn to brown. The wind, howling down from the retreating glaciers, carries more than just cold. It carries dust. It carries the microscopic spores of moss and lichen. These tiny, rugged pioneers are the first to arrive, settling on the raw, naked rocks. They are the first blush of life, the first splashes of muted color in a monochrome world. They cling to the boulders, patiently eating the stone, breaking it down grain by grain, creating the very first pinch of true soil. Then come the sedges, the hardy grasses, the dwarf willows that hug the ground to escape the punishing wind. The white silence is broken. The landscape is waking up. Watch as the centuries flicker by like frames in a film. The raw scars of the ice are softened and healed. The sharp edges of the moraines are clothed in a new blanket of tundra. The kettle holes, deep craters left behind by stranded blocks of melting ice, fill with crystal clear water, becoming a string of sapphire lakes scattered across the plain. The sun feels warmer on your face now. The air loses that sharp, metallic edge of absolute zero. It begins to smell of wet earth. It smells of potential. This is no longer a graveyard of ice. It is a nursery. The great shallow bowl of Doggerland now lies open to the sky. It is a vast undulating steppe, a fertile bridge connecting the lands. To the west, the highlands of Britain rise like a green wall. To the east, the flat expanse of Europe stretches away to the horizon. And here, in the middle, is the greatest prize of the prehistoric world. A land of endless horizons. A land of lush river valleys and rolling grassy hills. The geology has done its work. The foundation has been laid. The stage has been built with the violence of ice, then smoothed by wind and water. It is waiting for the actors. The shadows are lengthening across the tundra. The wind is picking up, sending ripples through the long grass that look like waves on the ocean that is yet to come. It is a lonely place, achingly beautiful in its emptiness. But it will not remain empty for long. Do you hear that? It is not the wind. It is not the water. It is a dull, rhythmic thudding against the earth. a deep vibration that travels up through the soles of your feet. Something is coming, something massive. The ghosts of the ice are leaving, and the giants of flesh and blood are arriving. The land is ready to receive them. Rest now. Let the deep cold seep out of your bones. We have witnessed the birth of the soil. We have watched the glaciers die so that the grass could live. It is a heavy thing to watch a world change so drastically. Close your eyes against the lingering glare of the memory of ice. The white has faded. The green is here. The vibration we felt, that low, rhythmic thudding against the soles of our feet, grows louder, more distinct. It is not the pulse of the earth. It is the pulse of the living. Out of the morning mist, they emerge. They are moving mountains of russet fur and curved, gleaming ivory. The woolly mammoths. They move with a deceptive, swaying grace, a slow, ponderous gait that consumes the miles of the Great Plain. They are the undisputed lords of this new land. Their tusks, stained with the dark mud of the riverbanks, sweep back like the bows of great ships, brushing aside drifts of snow to reveal the sweet, dry grass hidden beneath. Stand perfectly still. Do not even breathe. If you are close enough, you would smell them long before you saw them. A heavy, pungent aroma of musk, damp wool, and the fermented sweetness of grass digesting in their vast guts. It is the raw smell of survival. You would hear the wet, internal rumble of their digestion, the sharp crack of a willow branch snapping under a foot the size of a tree stump. Steam rises from their shaggy flanks in the cold morning air, a personal fog that travels with them. They too are the architects of Doggerland. Their heavy footfalls compact the soft soil. Their ceaseless grazing keeps the forests at bay, maintaining the open steppe that allows the wind to sing its lonely, ancient song. They are walking from what is now Germany to what will one day be Norfolk, a migration that requires no ships, no bridges, only time and the instinct to follow the grass. But they are not alone. Look again. In the long shadows cast by these giants, there is other movement, something smaller, something far more fragile. It is a silhouette that breaks the horizontal logic of the landscape. An upright figure, a single vertical line in a sprawling horizontal world. The first human has stepped onto the floor of the North Sea. He does not look like a pioneer or a conqueror. He looks like a piece of the landscape that has simply decided to stand up and walk. He is wrapped in the thick skins of reindeer, the fur turned inward to trap every precious degree of his body heat. His boots are soft, supple leather, stuffed with dried sedge grass for insulation. They make almost no sound on the frost-hardened earth. A quiet, muffled crump, crump, crump. He stops. He crouches low to the ground. Let us draw closer. Let us lower ourselves to the earth beside him. His hand, calloused and dark with grime, reaches out to touch the fresh indentation of a mammoth track. The mud is still wet and pliable. The water seeping into the footprint has not yet had time to freeze. His breath plumes in the frigid air, a momentary cloud of his own life force that vanishes as quickly as it appears. He looks up, his eyes scanning the horizon. These are not primitive eyes. They are sharp, calculating, filled with the same fluid intelligence that would one day build pyramids and split the atom. But here, in this time and place, that intelligence is focused on a single, all-consuming purpose: the brutal, caloric equation of survival. He is a Mesolithic wanderer, a Megalomosian hunter. He does not know he is walking on a land that will one day be a myth. To him, this is not Doggerland. It is simply the world. It is the endless larder. It is the place where the great herds go. And so, it is the place where he must follow. Behind him, others emerge from the thin cover of birch scrub. A family. A clan. They carry their entire lives on their backs. Woven baskets of willow, heavy with strips of dried meat and precious flint nodules. Long, elegant spears tipped with microliths. Tiny, razor-sharp blades of stone, glued into wooden shafts with sticky birch tar. These weapons seem small, but they are lethally efficient. They are the teeth and claws of the human animal. Watch them move. There is a quiet competence, a fluidity to their actions. They do not fight the landscape. They flow through it. They know which roots will heal a wound and which will stop a heart. They know that the sudden collective silence of the birds means a predator is near. They carry a map of this land, not on paper or hide, but in their songs, in the stories told around the fire about the great river that snakes to the north and the chalk hills that lie to the west. They make their camp in the lee of a sandy ridge, sheltered from the ceaseless wind. Listen now to the sounds of the first true arrival. The sharp, percussive clack, clack, clack of one piece of flint striking another. The soft hiss of sparks falling onto a bed of dry tinder. And then the sudden, roaring inhale of a fire taking hold. The smell of wood smoke begins to drift across the tundra. It is a foreign scent in this world. It is the smell of domestication, of alteration. For millions of years, the only fire here was the random violence of lightning. Now, fire is a tool. It is a captured star, contained and controlled within a humble ring of stones. They gather around its warmth, their faces illuminated by the flickering light, faces smeared with red ochre and animal grease to protect their skin against the wind and the biting insects. They speak in low tones, a language of soft vowels and guttural clicks that has been lost forever to the silence of time. And then, one of them laughs. That sound, human laughter, is almost jarring in this vast primordial emptiness. It sounds so small. It sounds so wonderfully defiant. To be human in Doggerland is to live in a state of perpetual negotiation with fear. In the profound darkness beyond the fire's reach, there are wolves. Their howls are not just sounds, but a physical pressure on the air, a vibration that speaks of hunger. Their eyes catch the firelight and throw it back, not as reflections, but as pairs of smoldering yellow coins dropped in the velvet dark. There are cave lions, vast and silent engines of muscle, watching from the tall, whispering grasses, their patience a tangible threat. And the cold is a constant, patient god, an enemy that never sleeps, waiting for the fire to weaken, for a moment of carelessness, for a single, fatal mistake. But where there is great danger, there's also an almost impossible abundance. The rivers writhe, their currents a living braid of silver and black as countless eels surge through the water. The sky, at dawn and dusk, is not a color but a motion, a thundering eclipse of waterfowl, geese, swans, and ducks, a million pairs of wings beating the air into a deafening hymn. The lakes, clear as liquid crystal, are teeming with pike and perch, their scales flashing like sunken treasure. This is no barren wasteland. It is a Garden of Eden, but one with razor-sharp teeth and nights that can freeze the marrow in your bones. The clan settles, drawing into itself as the world darkens. The children, a tangle of limbs and soft breath, sleep in a communal pile of furs, their small bodies borrowing warmth from one another. By the fire, the lookout sits, his shoulders hunched against the night. He is whittling a piece of bone, the rhythmic scrape of flint on calcium the only sound in the quiet camp. His eyes, however, are not on his work. They are fixed on the dark, arching horizon. He is watching the stars, the very same stars you see. The plow, a great celestial hook. Orion, the hunter, striding across the heavens. The Pleiades, a faint, shimmering cluster of celestial diamonds. They wheel overhead in their silent, majestic indifference, utterly oblivious to the small human drama playing out below. He does not know that the very ground beneath his feet is temporary. He does not know that the colossal ice caps far to the north are weeping themselves into the sea, that the great ocean is creeping closer, year by agonizing year, meter by patient meter. He has no concept that his great-grandchildren will be a people of the retreat, forced to move their camps higher and higher, chased by a ghost they cannot see. For now, this earth, this patch of firelight, is home. The landscape has folded them into its fabric. The first arrival is a memory now written into the land itself. The stage is no longer empty. It has a protagonist. But the geology we spoke of, its great grinding work is not yet finished. The water is rising. The great river that is their lifeline is widening, its banks softening. The golden age of this land is dawning, but its doomsday clock has already begun to tick. The wind breathes across the embers of their fire, a low sigh that scatters a flurry of sparks into the night. They drift upwards like fleeting wishes and then vanish, just as the memory of this people, of this very moment, will one day fade into nothing. We will stay with them. We will watch them build their world from mud and bone and fire. We will watch them thrive in this fleeting paradise just before the fall. The night deepens. A mammoth trumpets in the far distance. a lonely, mournful sound that rolls off the low hills of a country that is doomed to drown. Sleep now, under the watchful, silent eyes of the ancestors. The first footprint has been pressed into the mud. The first fire has been kindled against the dark. The ghost land is awake. Time is not a straight line. It is a tide. It ebbs and flows, depositing new layers of being, of life and death and change upon the ancient bedrock of the world. We have blinked, and thousands of years have dissolved like mist in the morning sun. The white, suffocating sheet of the ice is gone. The brown, wind-scoured scrub of the tundra has vanished utterly. Open your eyes to the Golden Age. The year is roughly 8,000 BC. The Earth, in its cosmic dance, has tilted its face fully towards the warmth of the sun. The great engine of the climate has shifted into a higher gear, a gear of aggressive, rampant, almost violent fertility. If you were to fly over Doggerland now, soaring on the silent wings of a white-tailed eagle, you would not see a barren plain. You would see a labyrinth of impossible green. You would see a landscape so rich, so deeply, astonishingly verdant, that it hurts the heart to know it is all gone. This is the climatic optimum. The cold steppe has been conquered by the forest. It was a slow, inexorable invasion of wood and leaf. First came the pioneers, the birch, silver-skinned and trembling in the wind. Then came the deep battalions of pine, their resinous scent a sharp perfume on the air. And finally, the heavy monarchs of the ancient wood arrived to claim their thrones, the oak, the elm, the lime, and the hazel. They form a canopy, a single, unbroken roof of leaves that stretches from the coastline of modern Holland to the rolling hills of Yorkshire. This is not a fragmented wood. It is a contiguous ocean of chlorophyll. A person could, in theory, walk from Berlin to London and never once leave the deep, dappled shade of a tree. You could travel across the spine of what would one day be a continent and never once see the sea. Imagine for a moment the smell of this world. It is thick, humid, and alive. It is the heavy, intoxicating scent of wet humus, of millennia of rotting leaves turning into black, fertile earth. It is the sharp tang of wild garlic crushing underfoot, the sweet, golden perfume of honey dripping from wild combs high in an ancient oak. The air is so rich with oxygen, it feels like drinking cool wine. And the water is the blood of this great green body. Doggerland is not dry. It is a landscape woven from water. As the glaciers retreated, they left behind a chaotic, beautiful network of kettle lakes, meandering rivers, and vast freshwater wetlands that acted as the kidneys of this new world. The great Schotten River is no longer a torrent, but a majestic artery, slow-moving and brown, wider in places than the Mississippi, winding its placid way through the forests, carrying the rainfall of half a continent out to the sea. Look down at the lagoons. Under the light of a full moon, they are perfect mirrors for the cosmos. The water is still, black as polished obsidian, disturbed only by the sudden silvery ripple of a waking pike. These wetlands filter the water, trap the nutrients, and create a primordial soup of life so dense that it supports an entire kingdom of animals. The mammoths are gone. They have retreated north, following the ghost of the ice, their memory fading into the mists of legend. In their place, new giants have claimed the throne.
The aurochs.
They are immense, primeval beasts. Huge black bulls, standing 6 feet tall at the shoulder, with horns that curve like the crescent moon. They move through the sun-drenched clearings in the forest like dark gods, their hooves sinking into the soft peat. Hear them bellow. It is a sound of absolute, terrifying dominance, a deep, resonant challenge that vibrates through the trees, silencing the wolves and stilling the birds. And the red deer. Herds of them, hundreds strong, flow like a russet tide through the hazel coppices. The stags, their heads crowned with magnificent antlers of velvet and bone, stand sentinel on the ridges, their powerful forms silhouetted against the fire of the setting sun. This is not a wilderness to be feared. This is a garden to be lived in. It is a garden of Eden before the serpent, before the fall. The abundance is staggering, almost decadent. The hazel trees drop their nuts by the ton, laying a carpet of protein on the forest floor. The rivers boil with the silver and red of salmon, fighting their way upstream to spawn. The reed beds are thick with the nests of cranes and bitterns, their strange booming calls echoing across the marshes. From our high vantage point, looking down at this lost world, we can finally see the smoke. Thin, blue-gray ribbons of wood smoke, rising from scattered clearings near the water's edge. They are not isolated campfires anymore. They form a network, a constellation of human life. The people here have settled. They have discovered a paradise where hunger is a rare and unwelcome guest. They have built seasonal camps on the sandy islands within the wetlands, places of safety and security, surrounded on all sides by the staggering bounty of the marsh. They do not know they are living in a valley. To them, the hills that will one day be called Britain are just the highlands to the west, a place to go in the high summer to hunt on the windy slopes. To them, the flatlands that will become Europe are just the endless, mysterious forest to the east. There is no channel to cross. There are no white cliffs of Dover to stand as a barrier. The world is whole. It is unbroken. But the tragedy of the Golden Age is written in the water itself. Walk with me to the edge of a tidal creek, where the forest meets the influence of the distant sea. The water here is brackish, a subtle, lethal mix of the river's fresh blood and the ocean's salt. Notice the trees standing nearest the water. The great oaks, centuries old, their bark like a cartographer's map. Their roots are wet, too wet. The sea is not stationary. Far to the north, in the American Shield and the Scandinavian mountains, the last of the great glaciers are still weeping. The ocean is swelling, its volume increasing with every passing year. Every spring high tide reaches a finger's width further inland. Every decade, a few more meters of the forest floor turn brown and die, poisoned by the salt. The people see it, of course, but they do not understand the scale. They think it is just a bad season, a powerful flood that will eventually recede. They adapt with the casual resilience of their kind. They move their camps back 100 paces. They weave their fish traps a little higher up the river. They do not know that the floor of their world is tilting beneath them. They do not know that they are living in the bottom of a bowl that is slowly, inexorably being filled with the sea. But for now, tonight, let us ignore the rising tide. Let us stand in the center of the great forest. It is night. The canopy above is so dense it blocks out the stars, leaving us in a cathedral of absolute darkness. The air is alive with the chirping of crickets, a rhythmic, pulsing sound that feels like the very heartbeat of the woods. Fireflies drift through the undergrowth, tiny floating lanterns lighting a silent, secret world. A tawny owl hoots, a haunting, mournful question that drifts through the trees unanswered. Feel the profound peace of this place. It is the peace of a world that is working perfectly, in perfect balance. The cycle of life and death is an unbroken circle. The hunter and the hunted dance their eternal bloody ballet in a landscape that provides for both. It is beautiful, and it is doomed. The pollen grains, trapped in the layers of mud beneath our feet, tell the whole story. They speak of a sudden, catastrophic shift. A thick layer of oak and hazel pollen, followed abruptly by a layer of salt marsh sedge, followed by a final, suffocating layer of marine silt. It is the precise geological sequence of a world drowning. But here, now, in the golden age, the oak is still king. Take a moment to lean against the rough, furrowed bark of one of these giants. Feel its solidity, its sheer mass. It feels permanent, doesn't it? It feels as if it will stand here forever. It is an illusion. The most beautiful things in this world are always the most temporary. The golden light of a late afternoon sun, the fragile bloom of a flower, the existence of Doggerland. We must cherish this view, because we are about to descend. We are about to leave the eagle's perspective and drop down into the reeds. We are going to zoom in, closer and closer, until we can see the ancient dirt under the fingernails of the people who called this paradise their home. We are going to meet the hands that shaped this world. The wind sighs through the leaves overhead, a sound like 1,000 people whispering a single word. Hush. The forest sleeps, unaware that the sea is dreaming of the land it will soon claim. Come closer. Quietly now, kneel down on the damp, cool earth. Ignore the vastness of the forest. Forget the encroaching sea. Your world is now no larger than the space between two human knees. Look at the hands. They are resting on a worn leather pad, illuminated by a single shaft of morning sunlight that has pierced the canopy like a spear. They are not delicate hands. The skin is the color of smoked hide, weathered and mapped with the intricate cartography of survival. There is dirt deeply ingrained in the whorls of the fingerprints, soil that is 10,000 years old. The fingernails are short, jagged, rimmed with the black of pitch and earth. A pale scar runs across the left thumb, a white line of memory from a slip of a knife long ago. Watch them move. They are holding a piece of red deer antler. It is hard, smooth, and cool to the touch, dense with the life it once supported. In the right hand, held with a focused precision that would shame a modern surgeon, is a shard of flint. It is gray, translucent at its razor-thin edges, and terrifyingly sharp. Scritch, scritch, scritch. Listen to the sound of the work. It is a dry, rhythmic friction, the sound of human intention imposing its will on the raw material of the world. The stone bites into the bone, shaving off tiny, fragrant curls of white dust. The dust falls onto the leather pad, smelling faintly of calcium and burnt hair. He is bringing forth a weapon from the world's own bones. He is making a harpoon. This is no crude tool. It is a masterpiece of Mesolithic engineering. Watch as he carves the barbs. He turns the antler, his fingers assessing the grain, feeling for its strength and weakness. With a sudden, controlled flick of the wrist, snap, a flake of bone flies off. A perfect, sharp serration is revealed. This barb will grip the flesh of a thrashing pike. It will hold a writhing eel. It will feed his family. The rhythm is hypnotic, a form of meditation. Scrape. Blow away the white dust. Scrape again. It is the oldest music in the world, the song of human making. Shift your gaze slightly to the side. Look at the small wooden bowl sitting on a flat stone. Inside, there is a black, viscous, glistening lump. Viechta. Lean in. Smell it. The scent hits the back of your throat, a sharp, acrid perfume of distilled smoke and wood alcohol. It is the superglue of the Stone Age, an alchemical marvel boiled from bark over a slow fire. The hands pick up a pinch of the black tar. He rolled it between his thumb and forefinger, his body heat warming it until it becomes pliable, sticky, like dark taffy. He smears the tar onto the end of a long, straight wooden shaft. He takes a microlith, a tiny geometric blade of flint no bigger than a thumbnail, and carefully presses it into the warm, yielding tar. He smooths the black glue around the stone, sealing it to the wood. His fingerprints are left behind, perfectly preserved in the cooling resin. Those prints will harden. They will survive for 10 millennia. A signature left in pitch, waiting for an archaeologist to find them and wonder at the man who left them there. Now, turn your head. Look at the other pair of hands, working in the cool shadow of the hut. These hands are lighter, the fingers more slender, but they are no less strong. They are weaving. Over, under, hold tight. Over, under, pull tight. Asterisk. She's holding a bundle of reeds gathered that morning from the riverbank. The reeds are still green and supple, smelling of sweet swamp water and mud. The sound is different here. It is not the harsh scrape of stone, but a soft, organic rustling, the whisper of plant fiber against skin. Swish, snap, swish.